So we now have a release date for Spirit of Rebellion, May 4th, so that's pretty exciting. We can all look forward to seeing new cards then. Today we're going to look through yellow, villain, rares, and legendaries. So with the characters, we'll talk through some combinations that they can use, and with upgrades and supports, we'll just talk about some of their strengths and weaknesses in general. So we'll start out with character or card 18 from the set, Aurra Sing. She's a pretty powerful card. She comes in at 14 and 18 cost, and we'll see why that 14 cost is a big deal here in a second. She has 10 health and has 3 ranged faces, so a 1, a 2, and a 2, and then a 1 disrupt and a 1 resource. So the resource and disrupt seems pretty common for yellow villains and yellow in general, but the 3 ranged faces is definitely a big deal. So her cool thing is her ability says, before you resolve this die, you may discard a card from your hand to increase its value by 1. So that 1-2-2 ranged combo can really be seen as a 2-3-3. So you can imagine if you rolled her in Elite the first turn and rolled 2 of those 2s, very next action you could discard 2 things and deal 6 damage to someone. That's Poe level of standards, like throwing away cards to use his special. So that's pretty awesome. You are going to be a little susceptible to mill decks because you'll be throwing things away, which means you'll get less rerolls. Or if you do throw things away to reroll to get to the die face you want, you're going to have less things to discard to fuel her ability. So I've seen this combination played online a few times, and I've seen some people use it in a tournament, and it seems pretty legit. If you've watched my old videos, you know I'm like pretty much in love with Bala. He fits into every deck ever, pretty much. Just like Grievous, the problem with this is you're coming in only at 18 health, which people can burn through really fast nowadays. It is cool. Between 4 character dice, you've got 10 ranged damage faces. Pretty powerful. You get a focus and a shield from Bala, and then you have resources on both. The cool thing here is you'll be killing things pretty fast with Aurra Sing, so you should be able to set up double activations with Bala, but with only 18 health, I get a little bit worried about how long you can survive. Still a really powerful deck, definitely something people should try out. Another deck that I've been working on with her uses a regular version of Sing, and then an Enforcer and a Night Sister. And this is why I love that 14 cost. Characters that have a 14 cost, either regular or elite, are so important for villain decks. Because a lot of the neutral characters, or not neutral, but non-generic or regular, actually non-unique characters on the villain side cost 8. I think the Trooper costs 7, and the Tusken Raider and Royal Guard cost 9, but everybody else is an 8. So here we have a regular Aurra Sing, a Night Sister, and an Enforcer, and we get 8 damage faces on only 3 character dice. Before we were getting 10 over 4 character dice, so still a pretty good ratio. We've obviously got a ton of synergy here. We have Disrupt on our Night Sister and Aurra. We don't want to throw away all of our cards to reroll Sing to the right side, so we can use the Night Sister to reroll her, get her to the right damage face, discard a card, deal 3 damage. Seems like it could be a pretty powerful combination. I've only done a couple decks with it. I do really like that this deck comes in at 26 health, so you're going from 18 health to 26. That's a pretty big deal. It's a lot longer for your opponent to burn through your characters then. It gives you a chance to come back and continue things. One unfortunate thing here is both the yellow cards we have here are range damage and the Night Sister, and there's not a ton of range support that you gain from blue. I mean, a couple blue upgrades have 1 range side. I think the new Force Push upgrade that we'll see when we get to neutral cards has 2 range sides, so that's pretty cool. You can now holocron that onto Aurra Sing, which could be pretty awesome. But you're not getting a ton of support as far as upgrades goes from the blue, but you are getting a lot of cool control events that can really help swing the game, really. So definitely a cool deck. I'm probably going to try out on the stream later this week. So let's talk about that Enforcer that was in the last team. 3 damage faces, one of them is modified, 2 resource faces, both of them modified. Kind of stinks to have 3 modified faces when you don't have access to the Awakening like Rey does. You do have this cool action that says remove this die to remove 1 shield from a character. So if you roll a modified face and your opponent has claimed and there's nothing else you can do, you can at least remove 1 of their shields. And he does come in at 9 points of health for only 8 cost, which is a pretty good health to cost ratio. I've thought of a couple decks to fit him into, so like we said, that 14-point value is really important. You could do this with Sing herself too, but right here I have it with General Veers. This deck's called G for Guns, because everybody starts with G, and gee, we got a ton of guns on this team. So we have an elite Veers and 2 enforcers, and with just our 4 starting character dice, we have 12 ranged sides in our dice. Pretty sweet, right? Of those 12, what is it? Yeah, 8 of them are unmodified, and 4 of them are modified. And even beyond that, 4 of those 12 are 2 damage sides, plus 2 range modified sides. It's a pretty sweet combo. You're not going to find a lot of disrupt or discard in these kind of decks. You can see your characters don't have any. You've got no focus on your characters. You do have a shield. You're coming in at a ton of health. I know a lot of people avoid Veers because he's pretty low health for a unique character, but when you're coming in with 9, 9, and 9, that's 27 health for your opponent to burn through. It could take a long time to burn that down. So this seems like it could be a really legit deck. I'm pretty excited for it. Still need to try it out though. I was also looking at this deck. So this is looking at the new Darth Vader Dark Apprentice, who has a range of 2 melee sides, and adding our Enforcer to him. So that puts us up to 21 points when we run him as a regular. So we've got 9 points left, which could be a Royal Guard or a Tusken Raider. So I went with the Tusken Raider because we get 2 melee and 1 ranged side. One of the disadvantages Yellow has is that most of its weapon upgrades are melee. So these characters can kind of use those weapon upgrades. But at the same time, you're coming in at a ton of health. Like, I thought 27 health was a lot. Now we're coming in at 28 health. I haven't looked at all the character combinations in this game, but this has to be one of the highest health combinations out there for people to burn through. So if you can do this and bring some kind of healing or some kind of shielding, it can just take your opponent forever to kill these characters. Meanwhile, you've got 9 damage phases in your starting set. Seems pretty powerful. So next character is IG-88. He's a legendary. He's a 15-20, so he doesn't get the advantage of being a 14. You can run him with a Stormtrooper and another generic, which is nice, but 14 is a little preferable to 15. He comes in with 12 health, so you expect him to have a lot of health if you're going to spend 20 points on him. He's got a 2 ranged, a 3 ranged, a 1 shield, and then a 2 shield for 1 resource. Not a big fan of that costing a resource, because IG-88 doesn't even have a resource phase himself. It's a little disappointing to see that he has a resource cost die for the cost he is. He does have really powerful range sides, so you can't complain too much, and a pretty cool ability, so you don't generate any resources, but his ability says play a yellow weapon or equipment from your discard pile on this character, decreasing its cost by 2. So you can return those thermal detonators and jetpacks you may have discarded earlier onto your character. So I tried to find some combinations that worked well with him. The cool thing with SoR is we get a couple characters that cost 10 for the regular side, so we have a couple combos that can go with IG-88. So the first one I'm looking at is with FN2199 So he has a ranged face and then 2 melee faces. And you can kind of run this combo either way. You can have Elite IG-88 with a regular FN, or you can switch it around and do an Elite FN with a regular IG-88. He does produce a resource and has shields, which is nice. There's a little bit of synergy there. His real synergy is in his ability. So I've seen a lot of videos, and I'm sure you guys have seen people playing a weapon at FN 2199, rolling the weapon in, resolving it, overwriting it with another weapon, and discarding the old one over and over and over again to deal a ton of damage. If you can do that, you're really going to make FN 2199 your target, the target for your opponent. Meanwhile, you're just filling your discard pile with these yellow weapons that IG-88 can return to play and put on himself for a discount. So I could see that being a cool combination. I haven't tried it out yet. You come in at 23 health, which is pretty high for a 2-character team. So seems like it could be pretty legit. The other combo that seems to be happening with every yellow character is to just use the next yellow SoR character. So Unkar has the same costs as 9s. He's a 10-13, so you can run this combo either way as well. He doesn't have any aggro or melee or ranged faces to help out IG-88 killing characters. What he does have is a ton of money. So you can be discarding cards from your opponent's hand to gain money, or you can just use his resource faces. You're probably going to have fast hands in this deck. It has yellow characters in it, so you will have fast hands. So you can fast hands your 3 damage on IG-88. But anytime I see a character with 2 disrupt at this point, fast hands is like an auto include, because if you can get that out there every turn, after round 1, if you've claimed, you have a chance of just deleting your opponent's money, which is a huge deal. Again, 22 health, so we're sitting pretty good for health. Not amazing compared to those 3 or 4 character decks, but pretty happy with it. And yeah, so just kind of a generic combination. Get money from Unkar, put weapons on IG-88, blow things up. Alright, so let's talk about Unkar. Let's talk about him. So he's a 10-13 for 10 health, which is pretty good. He's got a focus, and then a 1 and a 2 disrupt, so he's definitely a control character, as we can see. He's got a 1 resource and a 2 resource face. I've seen a lot of people get really excited about this 2 resource face. There's been some turn 1 Crime Lord decks that we've seen. A lot of people, or round 1 I should say, a lot of people have been playing this deck online, and we've seen a lot of streams play it, and it is a powerful deck. Do not be fooled. It can destroy you. But the biggest problem with it is if you do have to go against 3 or 4 characters, you can definitely Crime Lord them all, but on your 2 characters, you don't really have a way to kill them. I mean, you can try to Crime Lord 4 guys, but that's going to take a lot of resources, even with discounts from Ace in the Hole and Cheat and things like that. So I'm not downplaying this deck. It's probably one of the strongest combinations out there for Unkar, but I'm trying to think beyond that, see what other combos we can see. One thing I'll say is that there's another character that's a yellow villain that has 2 resource phases that I think would work really well when paired with Unkar, and that's Django. So you're losing 1 point of health compared to that Jabba Unkar deck. But now you have 8 character dice to start with, 4 of which are resource phases. That's pretty powerful. You're still going to play fast hands to get it on Unkar, so you can use that disrupt to hit your opponent right away. And you have some pretty powerful combinations here. So if you end up doing Crime Lord, you can throw Crime Lord on Django. When your opponent activates, you activate Django, hopefully roll a special, and then you can resolve it. So your opponent doesn't even have a chance to remove it if you can roll that special side. So that's really powerful just in itself. You don't even need fast hands to do that. Just throw it on Django. There's also that new yellow event that is an ambush, and it says take a die that's showing a resource and switch it to another side, and then take another action, right? So both these characters can almost always have at least 1 die on a resource side, so pretty powerful that you'll see disrupt and resource rolling is in villain yellow nowadays. So this kind of, in my opinion, solves some of the problems you can run into with Unkar Jabba, where you might have to burn through Crime Lording 3 characters, and they might be able to get down one of your combo pieces at that point. I've seen a lot of times I can start working on Crime Lord with Unkar and then throw a jetpack or something on Django, and Django can take things down really fast with some good rolls, especially when you have focus from Unkar. You have just as much focus as you do with Jabba. So I think it's a pretty good combination. I've played this a couple times, and I've seen a lot of times I will Crime Lord 1 character and kill a character, or maybe Crime Lord a character and kill 2, or Crime Lord 2 characters and kill 1. Pretty powerful combination. Unkar, definitely the Crime Lord boss. He's the kind of Crime Lord we probably would have expected Jabba to be, not the junk dealer that we saw in episode 7. Alright, so my last combination here is Vader-Unkar. We've seen that Unkar has a lot of disrupt, he's got a lot of discard, he's kind of a raider himself, so this is my new Vader Raider in my opinion. It's not quite as strong as Vader Raider, it's definitely not aggro, it's a lot more control-y. You're only going to be able to run a regular Vader and an elite Unkar, so you're losing out on 1 Vader dice, but what you have is a lot of discard and a lot of disrupt. You can throw fast hands on Vader and start just smashing through things with his 3 or 2 phases. You can disrupt their resources right away with his 2 disrupt face and force a discard. And then you can use Unkar's ability with just 1 straight up face from Vader to remove something. You're going to have a ton of resources with Unkar's ability as well, and with his resource faces, so you'll be able to play events like Rise Again on Vader and things like that. The longer they let Vader live for you to get more upgrades on him, the more powerful he's going to become. So I really think that this is a really good control discard combo, just like the last one was, that provides a little bit of aggression out of Vader's 2 and 3 damage face, and just a lot of the blue aggression that we see in general. So, we'll finally move on to the supports and upgrades. So the first support is a legendary support, Slave 1. It's got a 2, 3, and a 4 for 1 range damage faces, so it definitely belongs in a range damage deck. Comes with a resource, big fan, and a special. It says, force an opponent to deal damage to their characters equal to the number of dice in their dice pool, distributed as they wish. This is a pretty cool special. It can really hurt your opponent if they're running a deck with a lot of modified sides, because they're searching for the sides that let them resolve their dice. At the same time, Once my opponent plays this, I'm pretty much never leaving more than 1 or 2 dice out in the field while Slave 1 is out there. Maybe I will early on, but you don't want to get caught with 6 or 7 dice out in the field and have Slave 1 force you to deal 6 or 7 damage. I mean, your opponent does get to choose where they want to distribute the damage, but chances are it's going to hurt pretty bad if you have a lot of dice out. So it's definitely a cool card. I'm glad that it's 4 cost, not 5 cost like the Falcon or anything. Just not sure how great it is yet. The damage faces definitely have potential, and this could see play in like that Veer's Enforcer deck or something like that. But not sure where else it'll go yet. Alright, next card, Blackmail. Another legendary. This one's an upgrade. So you can play it onto a character and it costs 3. And you can see its damage faces are awesome. 2, 3, 2, 3, 3. Unkar loves this card. You get this on Unkar, 3 of the faces on it you can use his ability to force a mill and free resource generation. Not only that, you get resource generation just off the card itself. It says, after you roll this die, any opponent may give you 1 resource to remove this die. So they're losing your resource, you're gaining it, it gets removed, but you do that 2 or 3 times in the game and you've definitely paid for it and stolen from your opponent. The biggest problem is it's your opponent choosing, and it's anytime you roll this die. At least that's the way I've seen it ruled. So if I re-roll this die and it rolls from a blank to a 3 discard, they can say, okay, well now I'll give you a resource. Denying resources is nothing to be laughed at, so I think it definitely has places. It fits well into the Jabba and Night Sisters deck that we played before. And I think it fits well in Jabba, Unkar, and Vader-Unkar, so a lot of powerful decks that this could fit into. I love seeing support for Disrupt and Mill, especially in this SoR set. Pretty happy for it. Next card is Personal Shield. I do not know what I think yet about Personal Shield. I wish it was neutral, that's for sure. It's got 2 blanks, and it only costs 2, which is kind of nice. You can use it with Nowhere to Run and Power of the Dark Side. It's got a 1, a 2, and then a 3-for-1 shield face. Not super excited for the 3-for-1 shield face. I mean, if you use it, you're giving a character 3 shields. You can't distribute them as you wish, like Diplomatic Immunity. So, I mean, you have to have a character that's fully unshielded to get full advantage out of that. It does have a resource, which is okay. Before attached character is dealt 2 or more range damage, you may exhaust this upgrade to give attached character 1 shield. So it provides shields that way, but it's only to the attached character, so they can kind of avoid that until they have to. And it's also if they're dealt 2 or more range damage. So if I have a bunch of resolutions of 1 range damage sides, not really going to stop me. So it's kind of like similar to Dooku's ability, only it's only on range damage, it's not discarding from hand, and it's only once per turn. So it's not the stellar card that I was hoping it was when we saw just the cost and the title and the 1 and 2 shield face, but still probably has its place. I haven't seen a really powerful yellow shielding deck for villains yet. If this was a neutral card, we'd see some sort of Qui-Gon yellow deck running this in Diplomatic Immunity that would just destroy things. But as a villain card, not overly impressed. Finally, we have Vibroknucklers. Pretty excited. Another weapon, great for 9s. 3 damage faces, 2 discard faces, so we're getting support for discard and disrupt again. It's got ambush, always great. It's 3 cost. When we read its ability, we'll understand why it's 3 cost. It says, before resolving this die, you may spend a resource to increase its value by 1. So you can make that a 2/2/3 and then a 2 and a 3 discard face. But to do that, you're spending 4. So, I mean, if you do it turn after turn, it might become worth it, but you're also pouring all of your money into Vibroknucklers instead of more upgrades, healing, or control events. I'm glad this card is a villain. It's the opposite of Personal Shield. I don't think Rey needs access to a card like this. She has enough yellow ambush and neutral ambush cards to keep her busy. It is a melee weapon, so we're still searching for, outside of the Tusken, a really good yellow melee character. I don't know who that's going to be yet. Maybe it'll be Bosk. Maybe it'll be, I don't know, somebody else from Jabba's Palace, or somebody from the Mos Eisley Cantina. But once villains get, especially yellow villains, get a good ranged character that pairs with someone else, we're going to see all these yellow ranged cards that have niche uses right now. Gaffy Stick, Flamethrower, and Vibroknucklers are going to become really powerful. So this is a card to look out for. The more I think about it, the more I think I could totally see those Cantina guys being some melee characters that really rock some face with these Vibroknucklers. So, with that, we've now gotten through all of the villain-specific rares and legendaries. Next week, we'll move on to looking at the hero-specific cards and then the neutral-specific cards, and then finally get on to the events, supports, and things like that. So, with that, thanks for watching.